Three, two, one. Welcome back to Backward Point Podcast. My name is Nadra Sayed. I am your co-host. I am doing another fateful yet saddening and depressing podcast. As a Pakistani cricket fan, I have my chocolate milk with me for the viewers who are on YouTube and Spotify watching us. And we're just gonna go deep dive into it. With me, as always, is my co-host, partner in crime, brother, and producer Bashar Sayed is with us. And straight off of a 5 hour and 38-minute live stream, we're chafed. We're kind of stunned. We're kind of I don't know. What are the feelings running through your mind today, Bashar?
You know, it's been a terrible loss when a writer has been lost for words. Pakistan lose the second test match against Australia at the MCG, the Boxing Day test. And, losing was expected, but it's when the Pakistan team gives you that hope that maybe, just maybe, we can win. And with all the history behind Pakistan's inability to win a test match in Australia since the past 28, 29 years, we really felt like there was a glimmer of hope here for the Pakistan team. And that's sort of why we were excited to live stream. And we were on the stream for about 5.5 hours, going through the motions of being a Pakistan fan. You know, if you guys want, go on our YouTube, check it out. It's in the live section of our channel. And you'll just really see how it is to watch a Pakistan cricket match. You've seen us review matches, preview matches, but you've never actually seen us watch a match live in real time. So yeah, just a lot of emotion. And I think it took me a while to unwrap all of those. I think we were discussing last night that we might come back for streaming on day 5. But, turns out that the game didn't even go till day 5. Australia finished it off in the extended 30 minutes of the match yesterday. So, yeah, I'm just trying to, process everything.
So after we didn't stream the entire fourth day, we streamed, I want to say, about a good 80%. We stopped streaming an hour before the game ended. And we didn't know the game was going to end. We just thought the day was going to end. And it was one of those things where we signed off. We went to our respective chambers in the house, and even though we were kind of signed off for the day, we were still like keeping an eye out on Crick Info. And as soon as Amir Jamal, firstly, Rizwan's wicket was contentious. We'll get into all of that. But as soon as Amir Jamal went off and Pat Cummins took the extra 30 minutes, the siren bells were ringing, and wasn't a lot of help that Pakistan didn't really give a fight in the last 20 minutes of that day. It really hurts only because, like we said, hope is a dangerous thing. Hope will drive you insane. And we were madmen yesterday on a live stream. If you go back and check that live stream out, you will see 2 crazy people streaming for 5 hours and 38 minutes.
I wouldn't say we were too crazy because the Pakistan team, at one point, there was hope. When Shan was batting, Babar was batting, it seemed like both of them are set. They're scoring runs at a good rate. Pakistan's run rate at one point was 4.3. And Shan scored a 61 ball 50, I reckon. So there was definitely chances of Pakistan, if had Shan and Babar built that partnership, we could have won. Maybe even just yesterday, right? And there's also a moment when Rizwan and Salman Ali Agha had a partnership, and Pakistan had 5 wickets in hand, 98 runs to win. Salman and Rizwan were set. They had a good 50 partnership. We could have chased it down from there too. But again, 1 wicket down, triggers a collapse, and Pakistan lose the match. I have the notes in front of me for this podcast. I put it together just shortly before we decided to record this. And I have it categorized into 3 parts. So basically, where Pakistan lost the match, positives for Pakistan, and things they can improve on going into the 3rd test match at Sydney. So where do you want to start off with? Do you want to start off with the positives, or do you think areas where we lost the match?
Let's start off the way that you've assembled this, but where Pakistan lost the match. I think we should go right deep into this and talk about what actually happened. I've seen a lot of people go back and look at our reaction to Babar Azam's wicket, and the one thing that was quite surprising to everybody was that there was no reaction from me except for a head bow, which was just, I cannot believe this is happening. Undoubtedly the worst year for Babar Azam's career, 2023. Loses the captaincy, loses the World Cup, Asia Cup, loses the number 1 spot, fails to score a 50 in Test match cricket. a format that is tailor suited for him, and just a horrible year for Babar Azam in general. A year that was supposed to define him as the next biggest thing in world cricket, kind of lackluster and underwhelming. And I think that's the sort of energy that I've brought back into this podcast. That's why I feel a little bit low. The hope got to me, like I said, and I felt like there was a chance that we could have done it. This is why I want to start with where Pakistan lost the match, is because I personally want to dissect what we could have done better, or what Pakistan could have done better as a team to mitigate this loss. And the first and foremost thing that comes into the mind, and the thing that Pakistan fans will remember most from this tour, is Abdullah Shafique's drop catches. On the notes here, it says 5 catches dropped this series. Drops Warner at 2 and he scores 38. A deficit of 36 runs. Drops Marsh at 20, he scores 96, a deficit of 76 runs. Abdullah's impact in the match, he scores 66 runs, but concedes 112 from the drop catches, sorry. And in a total of negative 46 runs, he gives Pakistan that many runs to start off with.
Considering Pakistan lost by 79 runs, had Pakistan, and Abdullah taken those catches, the deficit would have been a lot lower. And Abdullah Shafique just looked confused. Terrible technique, fielding at first slip. Especially a couple of his catches just didn't look like he was in position. His hands were all over the place. I think the commentators on Fox called it crocodile hands. And Australians they're impeccable in the slips, whether it be the former players who are on commentary or the current players who are in the current slip cordon. And to see them talk about slip catching and how rigorous you need to train and practice to be a perfectionist, because the reaction time is half a second, 1 second, not even, right? When the ball's coming at you at pace. So for Abdullah to have dropped now 5 catches in the slips, I think one of them was a running back catch, which was Usman Khwaja's.
It started from there.
That's what initiated everything. And he's just been terrible in the slips. They replaced him with Babar Azam in the last innings. And Babar, I think he took a catch there as well. So just Abdullah's net impact in this match, like you mentioned, was negative 46 runs. Despite him scoring a 50 in the first innings, he wasn't able to compensate for the losses that the batsman he dropped went on to score those runs.
I think it's the confidence-shattering drop catches that then translate over to the batting side. And Abdullah Shafique being an opening batsman, he has to be ultra focused. There is no moment where he can be even slightly late.
Maybe he's even trying too hard to compensate for those drop catches, and
it gets to your head, right? Now you suddenly let the opposition live rent free for the rest of the test match in your head. And every time the opposition is scoring a run, you are feeling guilty. And Mitch Marsh, a person who has been phenomenal this entire test series, man of the match in the first game, and scores a brilliant 96 again in the second innings this time around. You really can't take that to heart, but it's human psyche. It's gonna happen, and when that happens, it's over. Abdullah Shafique had lost the match right when he dropped Mitch Marsh.
It's also about the fact that Mitch Marsh scored runs, but it's the way he scored those runs. He had a partnership with Steve Smith where Steve Smith seemed like he was just giving him singles over to Mitch Marsh, and he was the aggressor. He scored runs at a fast pace, at a good rate. If I look back at his innings, he scored 96 off 130 balls, 13 boundaries, strike rate of 74 almost. So it shows that he was really taking Pakistan bowlers to the cleaners, especially on a pitch where it seemed like a very balanced pitch. It was good for batting, good for bowling, and he really made Pakistan pay for that drop catch. And just in hindsight, it seems like that was one of the key reasons why we lost the match. An area where Pakistan was struggling for a long time was taking 20 wickets in the match. In this match, they were able to take 20 wickets, and we'll get to that in detail.
First time since 2010.
First time since 2010. And I think this is only the 8th time ever in Pakistan's history of playing test matches in Australia that they've taken 20 wickets in the match. So you can see it is a rarity. When it happens, Pakistan are certainly back in the game, taking wickets. And that's what it felt like this match. Only if Abdullah had been a better slip fielder, if he had taken those catches, if maybe he was removed from the slips earlier on and Babar had been there in the slips, maybe Babar would have taken those catches. There was that one specific drop catch, the one of Mitch Marsh, where it rebounded off of Abdullah and Salman Agha even almost caught it and he dropped it too. So it just, it was embarrassing to see. And I hope Pakistan comes back with better slip cordon in the next match.
I think talk about being caught, deer caught in headlights. Salman Ali Agha, even though he's caught a few brilliant ones in the slip cordon this series, he was just, his hands were like together. And if you're a slip fielder, even I know that, and I don't play professional cricket. I know that your hands are supposed to be ready. They're supposed to be in a like a. They're not supposed to be evasive. They're supposed to be aggressive in the sense that you should be ready for anything that's happening. And if you look at that replay again, Salman Ali Agha's hands were sort of together, clasped, and when that ball bounced from Abdullah Shafique's hands, and it literally bounced off of Salman Ali Agha's thigh, his hands should have been ready. He would have been able to catch that. But now we're in a moment of fine margins. Now we're like saying woulda, coulda, shoulda, but the honest reality is that if that catch gets caught, Australia are 46 for 5, and maybe get all out for 100, 120 if they're good and lucky enough, and 120 Australia, with the 60 odd run lead from the first innings, 160. I back Pakistan to chase this.
Yeah, we could have won just yesterday if that happened. So it proved to be very expensive. And I think, Australia at the time had a lead of 100, 46 for 5. It could have gone anywhere from that time because also our bowlers looked like they were in great rhythm, whether it be Mir Hamza or Shaheen Afridi. It looked like the old Pakistani pace attack is back, minus just a few kilometers in pace, but the line length, the accuracy, the discipline, that shoebox that we talked about, you could see was present with the Pakistani bowlers.
Yeah, we'll talk about the positives in a bit. What other reasons do you think Pakistan lost that test match?
There was a number of extras given in the first innings with Pakistan. A lot of them were buys. And I'm not putting all the blame on Rizwan. It's a combination of poor bowling, bouncers that were misdirected, that were too high, went over Rizwan, balls that were too wide that Rizwan couldn't catch. And ultimately, that added to 52 extra runs in the first innings. So I think that's definitely an area where it would seem that Pakistan wasn't able to put a band-aid on the leaking of the runs there. And just looking at Australia's first innings, 52 runs and extras, and it seems like that was their second highest scorer after Marnus Labuschagne. He scored 63, and the next biggest score is from the extras.
Yeah, so the total was 318, and if you take those 52 out, and it was the thing about extras that I don't understand, Bashar, maybe you can enlighten me. Buys, no balls, and wides seem more like extras to me than leg buys do. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Leg buys happen because the ball hits the leg, right? If you're bowling a delivery that's down the leg side, it's going to probably be a leg buy. So it falls into the category of poor bowling. If you're bowling right channels, if you're bowling a fourth stump line, the ball's finishing top of off stump, there's not going to be a leg buy.
What if you are bowling a bouncer, the batsman hooks, gets off the arm guard, and takes a couple?
Sure.
See, leg buy is very. I'm trying to say it's not. It's a vague term.
Sure.
And so maybe leg buys I don't see as that much of a nuisance. But the buys, no balls and wides. That's where my pickle is with the Pakistan cricket team. 20 buys, 15 wides in a test match, and 2 no balls.
That's 37 runs right there.
That's my area of concern. And you take that 37 off, Australia are in the 270s or 280s. And that's a lot. That seems a lot better. That feels a lot better. Pakistan maybe don't get out at 264. Maybe they play their innings out a little bit better. Woulda, coulda, shouldas, we will never know because Pakistan even though they bowled really well and, they hunted in pack. Shaheen Shah took 2, Mir Hamza took 2, Hassan took 2, Amir Jamal took 3, and Agha Salman took that one for David Warner, I believe, in the first innings. Yeah, David Warner. And they hunted in packs, but it could have been a lot tighter. And that, it stacks up. Everything stacks up. Suddenly you're chasing 180, not 317. And even at the fourth innings when 317 was on the cards, maybe I was delulu enough to be like, you know what, Pakistan might be able to chase this one. I had had a strong feeling that might be the case. And maybe it was because of Asad Shafique. Maybe it was because I was watching that innings live as well, where Pakistan almost did a miraculous chase, chasing a 490 almost. And they went up to 400, I believe, or maybe a bit more. And if they were able to do that in a fourth innings, I was like, maybe they'll get it together. Shan Masood and the gang will be able to rock one back. And they tried. They tried their hearts out. Fourth inning score by Shan Masood, 60 off 71, 84 strike rate, 7 fours in that. He looked to be extremely aggressive and he looked to be extremely calculated. Now, one thing that I kept talking about in the live stream is the drop and run. That's basically what you do is you get the ball in a good channel, you nudge it, and you take off. Shan Masood is really good at that. And he's able to take singles where there isn't singles, and he's able to convert those singles into doubles sometimes as well. Now, when he has a partner like a Babar Azam who's fitter and can take those doubles, it's fun to watch. But when he was batting with Imam al-Haq, we could see there were easy triples that were only reduced to doubles. And I feel like that also contributes to a few of the runs that should have been made there. Maybe that 237 turns into 245, 250. The other thing that I kind of was wondering about was how slow the outfield was. There were a few moments where there were shots that looked middle of the middle and they flew by the 30-yard circle, and then as soon as they're near the boundary, they sort of slow down and almost stop dead. And how that changes the game a little bit is where there was a 4 on the last ball of the over. Now it's a 3, and the same batsman is now facing another over. And it's just in Test cricket, the key is to get to the other side. You want to face as less balls as possible and survive as much as possible. That's the attacking and aggressive mindset as well. So the drop run, that's where it comes in handy, because if you have a bowler like Pat Cummins or Hazelwood, they love setting you up. The more deliveries you face by Pat Cummins in an over, the more you are falling into his trap. So if you face 2, you're looking for a third. The third should be a single because you want to get off and you want Pat Cummins or Hazelwood or Stark to readjust. And we saw that between the Shan Masood Babar Azam partnership, that when Shan was doing that A, helped Babar take the runs over, and B, really distraught the bowlers a little bit, because the bowlers were like, they weren't able to be set or satisfy themselves with a complete over to a bowler or to a batsman. And you really saw that with Lion. Like, they targeted Lion and they did not let him ease into his spell. And that's, Babar Azam went after Lion, Shan Masood went after Lion, and Lion was totally taking out the attack. So now you have only four bowlers who can do the hunting for Australia. I just think those little things also add up a little bit. I'm not just talking about runs, I'm talking about wickets in hand. There was a really infamous scene in that first innings where the over that Babar Azam got out, he was denied a single from Saud Shakil. It was an easy single, so said no. Fourth ball in that same over, Babar gets snipped back, bowled by Hazelwood. And that's where you can sort of mitigate those wickets if you're proactive enough to take those singles.
Yeah, I think the way the pattern of dismissals we've seen and how Fox cricket has shown us is all of them have been setups. You ball 3 or 4 back of the line deliveries, and then that's the one full delivery that's on the stumps. That's the one that gets you. So yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, let's say when we did our series review or preview episode a couple of weeks ago, if I told you that, with no context, if I told you Pakistan need 98 runs to win in the fourth innings with 5 wickets in hand, and a set Agha Salman, who is nearing his 450, and a set Mohammad Rizwan, who's in his low 30s but quickly got there, do you think Pakistan can chase that? What would you say?
Absolutely, 100%. When I was watching last night, even I had hope when these two were batting, because they kept taking down the score. They were targeting Nathan Lyon. They were getting runs. Rizwan was batting with intent, and so was Salman Ali Agha. And 98 to go, 5 wickets in hand, and I could see the body language of the Aussies changing. They were under pressure, and that's when Pat Cummins came in with his whole short ball tactics. Really packed leg side field with boundary riders at the back, and targeting Rizwan with the short ball plow. So at that point, even I had hope that Pakistan would win this match, right? 98 for 5, 98 runs needed, 5 wickets in hand, 2 set batsmen. I really had my money in Pakistan.
Hope wasn't a strong enough a word of what I was feeling at that moment. It was 98 with 98 runs on the board left, 5 wickets in hand. I was like, Pakistan's got this. The way that Salman and Rizwan were playing, they wanted to finish it yesterday, and it seemed like they would have if they would have gotten a few more boundaries in, if they would have upped the scoring rate, which they had. They had really picked it up after South Shakil went out, and then Pat Cummins, the hot bloody bastard, apparently is very attractive. I asked the chat that many times, and the vote was yes. Pat Cummins is an attractive individual. When he comes to bowl, he rips one to Mohammad Rizwan that is caught. He's caught at the glove strap or the wristband or the forearm. He hit something.
Rizwan indicated it's the forearm.
I mean, there was a huge mark on his forearm as the ball grazed him. And I mean, that is the moment of contention, isn't it? That's the moment that that's the, in the Sixth Sense when the guy says, "I see dead people," and then you realize, oh my God, Bruce Willis has been dead the entire time. Spoiler alert for the Sixth Sense. That's that twist moment, right? That's the Shutter Island moment, the Inception moment. That's the moment that everything just falls apart. And it's a contested moment. Can you for sure say that the reversal of that decision was, I don't want to use the word fair, but I want to use a different word, and it's not coming to mind, but did it make sense to you?
Given the on-field decision was not out, and there was a few different angles of the whole review. Initially, there wasn't enough conclusive evidence of the ball hitting his glove, but I think with the support of the zoomed in slow-mo review, the hotspot, it looked like a part of the ball hit the glove strap. And towards the end of all the replays, I was convinced that this is out, right? If the ball hits the glove or any part of the glove, and the glove strap being a part of the glove, and it sort of hit half and half, like a half glove strap, half his forearm, I was convinced. I thought that was that. I thought it was a fair call. Rizwan didn't look too happy. The on-field umpire didn't agree, obviously, initially, but upon reviews, different angles, I was convinced, and so was the third umpire.
So I'm probably going to take a contrarian take on that, not only just to make this a bit more interesting, just because I genuinely thought that was a bullshit decision, if I'm being honest. If you see where the ball hits Mohammad Rizwan, it's quite up. It's quite high on the forearm, and it's not as low as where the wristband should be. The wristband kind of ends here, and I'm pointing at my wrist. I don't know if you guys are watching this on the audio. It sort of ends on where the wrist bone ends, and then where Rizwan was hit was quite high on the forearm, and almost near his almost where the bicep and the forearm meet, somewhere in the middle of that. And explain to me how it could hit both that area and the wristband at the same time.
Yeah, so it seemed like in the after Rizwan was hit, the bruise on his arm was a bit higher versus what the technology was showing us. But again, based off the technology, based off what the hotspot showed, what the zoomed in replay showed, I thought it hit half and half. And so that's why I wasn't too concerned about that decision.
I think if it takes the third umpire that long, because it took him a while,
because you need conclusive evidence.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if it takes you that long, that in itself should be evidence that's not conclusive. That you are doubting yourself, you're double-minded, you have to see it from this angle, from that angle, from this, that, the other, from the top, from the bottom. The way that the ball was in contact with Rizwan and where it was so cramped. You can't fit a camera in there. And in that situation, you should go with the on-field decision, because the umpire that's on field is about 20 meters away. He has a better vision of what any camera could have. Cameras are like on the edge of the boundaries. And even if you have those killer Canon zoom lenses, you still can't get in between the cramps. And I don't know. I heard what Simon Toffel had to say. Simon Toffel said that if the evidence is conclusive and Richard Illingworth thought that it was, then I have to back Richard Illingworth. I still think that in such an important stage of the test match, you go with the on-field decision and you make sure that is upheld. Because if you're not convinced, if yourself are not convinced at that, and you have to take it from a myriad of different angles, that just tells you what you're not trying to hear.
Well, eventually he was convinced, and he needed those angles to convince himself so he can have conclusive evidence of the ball hitting the arm. And like I said, the third umpire, including myself, I was convinced, but I knew immediately when this happened, it's gonna start a lot of conversation.
Damn.
But
Who would have thought that Bashar would be sold out with the Australian lobby? Channel 7 paying you? What's happening?
cricket.com.au. I'm part of their PR team now.
Not sponsored.
So 219 for 6 Pakistan after that dismissal, and they get bundled up for 237. There was one more moment in the match where I thought Salman Ali Agha just lacked a bit of game sense. He was on 49 and he hits the ball down. It was the third ball of the over for Pat Cummins. And Salman Ali Agha right now is the set batsman in China, really, even though he considers himself to be a all-rounder. His highest score in tests is 21, I believe, which just happened.
I think it was 19. I'll double check that.
It just happened in the first innings of the match. And he takes a single, gets to his 50, round of applause. He shows his new bat sponsor.
UZ Sports, shout out.
Oh, no, Shaheen, no.
Salman does, my bad.
Salman shows his new
but
bat
still,
sponsor.
UZ Sports, shout out.
So Salman shows his bat sponsor, gets a 50, has his moment, and then Shaheen gets out. The next over, Amir Jamal gets out, and then Mir Hamza gets out. That just triggers a collapse. It's I think if Salman had a bit more game sense, he wouldn't have exposed Shaheen for 3 balls against Pat Cummins, who was looking to really roll up Pakistan's team. And I think, again, this comes through with the whole scarcity mindset of players. Like, let me get my 50, let me get my personal milestone, let me lock myself in for the next match. Instead of looking at the larger scale vision of the Pakistan team and what could be achieved here, right? Because if you have vision, you would be like, bro, 3 wickets in hand, I'm the set batsman, let me take strike and let me attack Lion who's bowling on the other end, right? And Salman Ali Agha, instead of just looking at the next match, you could have secured himself, if Pakistan had won because of him, the next few series.
I'm going to push back on that just a little bit. I see what you're saying. I agree with you. But there was a moment in that same over, a couple balls before, where Salman Ali Agha denied that single. It was same shot in mid-on. Shaheen pushed for it. He was like, come on. Salman said no. He goes back, defends a few. And then on the 4th or 3rd delivery, I believe, again, it was such a simple single. It was right there that Salman was like, fine, okay, I'll come. He was hesitant about that as well. And Shaheen was like, I got this. So when Shaheen is showing so much confidence, and Salman is like, I've already defended three balls, and there's 3 deliveries left in this over. I believe Shaheen can defend that out. I think that you can give the benefit of the doubt to Salman Ali Agha in that moment. The way he got out in that test match, though, was horrendous. But in that moment, I was like, I don't think he was going for his 50 as much as he was going for, okay, I think Shaheen's got this a little bit more than we think he has. Lo and behold, we were correct, where Shaheen was just nowhere near that delivery. I don't know what happened. Caught him by surprise, it seems like. The top edge was right on the shoulder of the bat, and he didn't even look up. He was looking left and right to see where the ball lands, and cotton bowled, or not cotton bowled, I believe Labuschagne catches that one. Could have been a cotton bowl for Cummins. Loves to do that. He loves to catch his own balls. I said that on camera, and I also said that Cummins is pretty hot. I think Hazelwood is hotter. That's just my opinion. You guys can fight me in the comment section if you want, but the Cummins fans, they're a different breed.
Okay. Want to talk about the positive to Pakistan to take away from this match? Starting off with, like we mentioned, Pakistan getting 20 wickets in the match. The first time since 2010 Sydney Test. Pakistan were inches away from winning the match. They couldn't chase 170 odd. Bowled off for 130. And actually the funny part of that match was, looking back, that whole series of that match was surrounded by Kamar Akbal's drop catches and missed runouts. And sadly, this match might be surrounded by Abdullah Shafique's drop catches. So just Pakistan team and drop catches.
Plagued by drop catches.
Thank you. Appreciate that word. So only the 8th time in Pakistan's history of playing cricket in Australia, 39 matches, where they've taken 20 wickets in the match. And trust me, I've seen all those 8 matches. Every time they've taken 20 wickets, it looked like they were in a position to win the match. But who would have thought this bowling attack with Shaheen Afridi, who was struggling, Mir Hamza, who was playing his first test in Australia, Hassan Ali, who was brought back, and Amr Jamal, plus Salman Agha to take 20 wickets against this Australian batting attack. So huge kudos to our bowling attack for even having Australia at 16 for 4 in the second innings. Like Australia, for the first time in years, I would say since India played them, looked like they were in a bit of a tangle.
19 wickets by our fast bowlers and 1 by Salman Ali Agha. Which, you know what? He got David Warner, so he's
a win is a win.
A win is a win. And I don't think that we would have expected that from the Pakistani bowlers when the series started. We were asking the question among each other, who's going to take 20 wickets with this bowling lineup? And Mir Hamza, we should talk about him because we're talking about the positives. And Mir Hamza's average when he came to this test match was 134 or 98 or something ludicrous like that. And he comes out and he bowls his heart out. May not have the pace, but he has the mindset, the aggression of a fast bowler. He might be top 120s, but the way that he's swinging it in and out, love to see it. That delivery against Travis Head, when it was a back-to-back wicket for him, he gets David Warner out inside edge, and he gets Travis Head middle stump. It's like where the ball left from his hand was way outside of off stump, and by the time it pitches, it's still outside of off stump. And then after it pitches, it swings in, nips back in, takes the top of middle, I should say, and stuff like that. That's the magic of Pakistani fast bowling. That's what we've been losing. That's what we've been missing. That's what we've forgotten that we were capable of doing. When a spell like that happens, it triggers the best out of the others as well. That's where you see Shaheen Shafri coming in taking 4, and Mir Hamza coming in taking 4 as well. And it was lovely to see. It was heartening to see. We haven't seen that in a little while from Pakistan, and futures looks bright.
Mir Hamza has about 400 first-class wickets. He's a seasoned pro. My only concern with playing him in Australia or anywhere for that case was his pace. He barely clocked in 130, but I guess he showed us in this match that you don't necessarily need a lot of pace, like a 145, 140 to get wickets in Australia. As long as you can bowl in the right line, right lengths consistently for long periods of time, and if you have movement, both in swing and out swing, you can definitely ask the right questions to some of the best batsmen. And as a medium pacer myself, my stock ball is the outswinger to the right-hander. And trust me, I've tried the in-swinger many times. I have to change my action, my pace drops, and I lose control. So for Mir Hamza to master in-swing and outswing at decent pace, I think that's impressive. It shows how much he's worked on his skill at county, at domestic cricket. And I just wish if we can somehow inject 5 to 10 Ks in this guy, he would be dangerous. And you mentioned his average initially. I don't really blame him for having that high of an average because he played all of his cricket before this match in the UAE or Pakistan. So pitches that don't really support fast bowlers like him. I think if Pakistan team ever goes to England, New Zealand, South Africa, he would be a great bowler for those conditions. And my question here is, a lot of the criticism, the reason why Abbas is not in the team is because he lacks pace. That's what our chief selector Wahab Riaz said. So I think Mir Hamza and Mohammad Abbas are similar paces. If Mir Hamza can play, why have we sidelined Mohammad Abbas, who averages 23 over 600 test wickets for in first class cricket? Do you think there's a scenario where Abbas can make a comeback and Pakistan can have Shaheen, Mir Hamza, and Abbas in the team?
I mean, I'm just quickly Googling Mohammad Abbas's age, and if it's the same as
he's in his 30s.
He's in his 30s, and so is Mir Hamza. Mir Hamza is 31, and Mohammad Abbas is 34, almost 34, 33 and 300 days. So I think it's the age factor, definitely. I'm not saying that Mir Hamza is any youngster. Mir Hamza is, in the middle end of his career as well. And I just think Pakistan is trying to be a bit more forward-looking. Getting Mohammad Abbas in the team seems like sending the wrong message out in the camp. And I think Mohammad Abbas has done well for Pakistan. I think you were telling me a stat that was crazy. He has the most deliveries at
second
good length.
Most deliveries on the good length mark.
50% of his deliveries are at that good length. So that's exactly what you need when you're a test bowler. You need that quote unquote fourth corridor length and shoebox length. Those are the new terms that I've learned in this test series. kudos to Fox Cricket again for presenting those shoebox length graphics. Hazelwood apparently has been the best when it comes to that shoebox length, and I was surprised to see that Pakistan actually had somebody who was able to do that as well, and that's none other than Hassan Ali.
One of the other guys who's a great bowler in terms of accuracy up the shoebox length is Scott Boland, who it shows you how great this Australian bowling attack is. That Scott Boland cannot even find a place in the playing 11. He was serving drinks for the team. So yeah, it's I think that's the length you want to keep bowling for long periods of time in Test cricket. I want to talk about one more big positive for Pakistan, and there was a lot of conversations, a lot of talks on the internet. Sarfraz and Mohammad Rizwan. Mohammad Rizwan replaced Sarfraz Ahmed as he was, the best wicket keeper and the best wicketkeeper batsman for Pakistan. I would even argue the best Pakistan has had in the past 15, 20 years, up there with Rashid Latif in terms of wicket keeping standards. And batting wise, I think he's been the best wicketkeeper batsman that Pakistan has had in a very, very long time. And Rizwan comes in, first innings, creates an immediate impact, scores 42 off 51 balls, strike rate of 82, 1416. And it seemed like he was the Mitch Marsh equivalent to the Pakistan team. And even in the second innings, I saw, the first shot to get off the mark against Nathan Lyon, slog sweep over mid wicket for 6. We need a player like Rizwan who can be the aggressor, who can be fearless, who's a fighter, who is fit, who is agile, who's flexible. And I'm glad that he's back. I think he averages over 40 plus in all formats for Pakistan. Tell me a batsman, wicketkeeper batsman, who's done that for Pakistan in the past.
No one. Firstly, that's an easy answer and a quick answer for you. The second thing I wanted to ask you real quick about Sarfraz was, why do you think he was selected in that first test match? Do you think that management just felt bad for Sarfraz, or did they felt guilty, or was it actually merit based?
It's a couple of things. So the first thing is Sarfraz Ahmed has been one of the top performers in Pakistan domestic. Got Azam Trophy. He was the captain of the winning Karachi team recently. And respects to Sarfraz, unlike other players who retired and came on national television and criticized the team, Sarfraz Ahmed, when he got dropped, he went back to first class. He worked on his fitness, he worked on his batting, scored runs, and came back in the team on the basis of performances. And so he sort of, the story goes that Mohammad Rizwan in the test match against New Zealand in Karachi, the second test, volunteered to rest and give Sarfraz a chance because Rizwan wasn't having the best of series. And Sarfraz comes in, scores a century in the fourth innings to help Pakistan draw the match. It was sort of a hero's comeback because he was playing in Karachi. I think it was his 50th test even. So he makes a comeback, scores more runs in domestic, and then
gets called in for Australia.
He gets called in for the Australia tour, right? The last test he played was in Sri Lanka. The second innings, he got a concussion. Mohammad Rizwan fittingly came back as his concussion replacement, scores a 50. The match finishes. Rizwan flies to Canada, plays a game here in Brampton, scores a 50, 2 50s in the span of 24 hours. Absolute superhuman. But again, I think Sarfraz might be a good player in Asian conditions, but when you're looking at people's averages in CNI countries, Rizwan is a lot better than him. And I think that's the reason why they played Sarfraz initially, because they wanted to reward the top performers of domestic, and also because Sarfraz performed decently in the recent past for Pakistan.
Mohammad Rizwan scores 42 in the first innings and 33 in the second innings, with a strike rate of 82 in the first innings and a strike rate of 71? No. Where'd it go? 56 in the second innings, but he started with a 6 and a beautiful cover shot for against Stark. I was going to say Muhammad Stark, but Mitchell Stark. One day, inshallah, brother. Valid selection. He proved his point. He was quiet. He let the runs talk, the numbers talk. Caught a really beautiful catch on Shaheen Afridi's ball there. And was it Shaheen Afridi's ball? Am I remembering that correctly? That catch that he jumped on his right.
Yeah, it was
Shaheen, right? It was
Alex Carey batting.
Yeah.
Shaheen Afridi out of the crease. one-handed catch to going down leg. Yeah,
Yeah,
iconic.
so beautiful little situation there for Rizwan to make a statement as his comeback, and yeah, just excited to see what happens in the next Test match for him, the third and final one of this ridiculous Australia Pakistan Test series.
I think we want to talk about things Pakistan can improve and a bit of points of concern. You already touched base on this with Babar Azam's numbers in Test match cricket this year, averaging 22, high score of 41. Very concerning stats. I really hoped that Babar Azam would come in the fourth innings, score a match-winning 100, take Pakistan across the line. He finishes not out. He becomes man of the match. And I sort of felt a bit dumb in the end because Babar, he scored a good 41, but not really anything in a match-winning effort. And that made me sort of think back and say, when was the last time Babar Azam scored a match-winning clutch knock for Pakistan in a do-or-die game where Pakistan really needed him to step up?
I'm
And
blanking.
my brain goes to the 2019 World Cup game against New Zealand where he chased it down. We were luckily again in the stands watching that match live in the stadium. And I can't remember another match where Pakistan is in trouble. It's a big match. It's a big series. It's a big tournament. And Babar Azam comes up, really sounds his authority, goes out, not out, and makes sure Pakistan wins. Maybe the game against India, but again, that's you're chasing 152 in Dubai, where chasing is relatively easier. So I can't remember the last time Babar played a really clutch knock for Pakistan.
I remember a few. I remember the T20 innings, a couple of those actually, where Babar and Rizwan faced a couple of 200s. Once against, I think it was against Australia, was it?
One of them was against South Africa.
In South Africa, yes.
One of them was in England.
Yes. And
so against England
and Pakistan, yes.
And but those are like bilaterals.
Again, I was just going to say, my caveat was that those were bilaterals. Really, I mean, important games for sure, and really important countries to beat, and really stamping your authority in that situation. But the stakes were quite low. If you lose that game, it doesn't really matter in the grander scheme of things. It matters more. That's why maybe the 152 for 0, even though, yes, you were chasing 150 and in Dubai, where chasing is easy, second innings, there's more to do, et cetera, et cetera. It's still the pressure of the World Cup, and you've never beat India ever. So I see that how that could be a milestone, and you have to put that up as a milestone. That was probably one of the best Pakistan T20 teams ever as well. It's just that after that, it just seems like, at least in 2023, the answer is no. Never.
What's the problem here? We thought the problem was Babar and the captaincy. He's taking too much pressure, and as soon as he leaves the captaincy, I don't think he's even scored a 50 yet.
I think that's such a really shallow mindset to be like, as soon as the captaincy drops, the weight, the pressure drops. If he is the greatest Pakistani batsman to play cricket right now, then that pressure stays. Captaincy is just like a cherry on the top for him. Then the cherry has the least amount of weight on the cake. The cake is still on his shoulders. And I think a couple of things have happened. Either A, he's read too much into his own hype and has started believing it. And once you start believing your own hype, your ego gets so inflated that now you're not playing against Hazelwood, Cummins, and Stark. You're playing against yourself. You're playing against what people expect of you, people like you and I, who are, I look at how many runs Pakistan loses from 79, and I'm like, those 79 runs should have been Babar Azam's. He should have scored 120 and sealed the deal and called it a night, because he should have done that. And the fact that he got out on the same delivery that he's been getting out on multiple times, we thought it was a Hardik Pandya spectacular, but in context and in hindsight, he's gotten out on that same delivery at least 4 times. It's either that or the mid-wicket, short mid-wicket. So what's happening? Like, why is he not improving on those areas? Kohli had a fourth stump problem, or fourth to fifth stump problem in India or in England, and he worked on it. I mean, it still was an issue for him, but there was definitely improvements, and I don't see that happening in this area.
I thought Babar Azam had an incredible work ethic. All of his teammates talk about that, how hard he works in the nets, how focused he is in his training and his diet. And what's happened? Like, if the process is the same, why isn't the outcome coming as what it used to be? Babar Azam, mind you, was the ICC Cricketer of the Year last year, had an unbelievable year in international cricket. And we thought he would just build on that to have another stellar year, but turns out he's averaging less than 40 this year. It's the lowest he's averaged in the past 3 years. And I think all of these are points of concern. And I really hope Babar Azam is not, like you mentioned, feeding into his own hype. You're talking to Uzair, Youth at Sports, off camera, and talking about how, players like Umar Akmal, they were just spectacular talents, but they were never able to make it as big as what their potential could have been, as how much talent they were gifted with. And Uzair mentioned a really good point. He mentioned that when you're Umar Akmal and you're being told at the age of 18, 19 that you're better than Miadad and Kamar Akmal, and your older brother, and you're the best thing that Pakistan cricket has found in the past 15 years, you sort of give into that hype. Like, you're like, okay, so I'm already that good. Why do I need to work hard? Why do I need to still train so hard? I'm already, at that next level. And I was watching some highlights of him batting in Australia when he was 19, again, 2010 tour. And the commentators were comparing him to a Brian Lara, or Ricky Ponting, or Bradman. And looking back, it seems like it was all fluff. And I don't want the same to happen to Babar Azam. We've mentioned he is destined for greatness, but he's got to chase it. It's not gifted to you. You got to work for it. And I really hope Babar has a great year for Pakistan in 2024. There's a T20 World Cup. There's
very important year.
Multiple series coming up. And we want the best of Babar.
Yeah, well said about that. And the second thing that you have on points here is that no Pakistani batter has scored 100 so far in this Test series. And, batters are getting starts, but they're not converting them into big scores. We saw that with Shan Masood. We saw that with Abdullah Shafique in the first innings. We saw that with Babar scoring a good 40 and then just, throwing his wicket away. And same thing with Salman Ali Agha. These are the moments where you become heroes. Salman Ali Agha just had to cool his temperament for a second, make sure that he sees the day out. And we could have been live streaming the game today and maybe had a different conversation, all in all. But it's very important that they find the confidence in themselves to turn those starts into big centuries. The one thing that sticks with me is when Shan Masood scored that 50. The camera pans to the family pavilion, and I saw that Shan Masood's brother was just telling him to calm down, stay there. You got to be there as long as you can. And that just shows the mindset of everybody else, realizing how important it is to stay on the wicket and keep the runs coming. Shan did his best. I think it was eventually the same thing that was bringing him success became his downfall. And I like the way he plays, though. I think Shan Masood, we haven't talked about him actually a lot in this podcast. He was one of the good things that has come out of this situation. I tweeted from the Backward Point podcast about how Shan Masood's appointment was basically the management, doing this. They're shaking their hands, rubbing their hands, like making sure that the dust settles, and then they have someone to easily blame. Like, oh, Shan Masood, he's a new guy, already averaging 28. He's fluff, axe him. And I think Shan Masood came out in both the tests trying to prove something, trying to prove that even if he is a scapegoat, he won't die with a whimper, but with a bang. And if Pakistan were able to taste this today, I think Shan Masood should have been the man of the match because his contributions were impeccable, not only in the batting side and setting a tone, as we said. His captaincy was really, really good. Getting David Warner out, and setting those fields, making sure the bowlers are well kept, and whatever he had to work with, he tried his best, and he came very close. And I think if indeed the management has thought about Shan Masood to be the captain for the rest of this WTC championship, I don't see anyone better to take the reins.
Yeah, well said, spot on. Everything. We've been very critical of Shan getting captaincy before this tour, but I think with his performances with the bat, they've been great. The way he's come out to bat with a lot of intent, really showing that hashtag Pakistan way, leading from the front and showing us how it's done. So positive for Pakistan. He's 34 years old, looks super fit, and I want to see more of him. I want to see him score some big hundreds. It's been a while since he scored 100. It's been a couple of years.
I think there is a higher probability of Shan scoring 100 in the third test match than Babar's.
What was that crazy stat of Shan averaging 40 plus in Australia?
So the stat was that the top 7 Pakistani batsmen were averaging more than 50 in Asian conditions. So strictly averaging 87, crazy stat. And then when they come to Australia, the averages were like 20s and 30s. And it was quite the opposite for Shan, where he was averaging 28 point something in Asia and he was averaging 45 or 44 in Australia. So just goes to show big man, big player, and big moment person.
Yeah, currently he averages 38 in Australia, 350s in 8 innings. So a lot better than Babar Azam, who currently struggling for his stats in Australia,
Just a
averaging.
reminder, he did score a 50 against India in the T20 World Cup and a 50 in the final.
Yeah, he was Pakistan's highest run scorer of the last T20 World Cup. He's been rested for the series against New Zealand coming up. Babar Azam, his stats in Australia are worrisome. 7 matches, 14 innings, average of 25, 100, 150. And Babar needs to step up. Can't say it's enough.
I just think it's the Australia series is so important in the sense that it's once every 3 years, almost like a World Cup, and it's the best quality of cricket you will see ever, hands down. And gotta give the shout out to Fox Cricket there as well. They've done a really good job showing or broadcasting, I should say, the Test match. It was very different. It was unique. It was fun to see. They had good visuals, good graphics. The AI comp thing was really interesting, where they were, substituting frames and just stuff like that, where they're trying to push the barriers and trying to push what cricket broadcasting looks like. I think they were the first ones to introduce 4K cameras as well into 60 frames per second as well when you're shooting sports. That's the sort of same technology and same gear that the NFL uses and the NBA uses. So it was just nice to see a push in the general direction in broadcasting. My gripe with Star Sports and with other, Sky Sports actually does a really good job as well. Now that I think about it, I think it's my gripes with Star Sports, as they are the biggest broadcaster in cricket right now. They're just mundane. They're boring. It's the same old thing, and I think they could do a really good job, learning from the Foxes and the Skies of the world to see how broadcast should be and how engaging it can make, how they can make it engaging. And we're just, shout outs to them. We don't get paid by Channel 7 or Fox Cricket here, but it was just fun to look at that. This little tidbits that they did, Bashar, I don't know if you noticed, they had videos up on YouTube where, they had David Warner and Usman Khwaja mic'd up. And that's stuff that the NBA does. You want to know what LeBron is thinking on the court? Well, here you go. What the coach is screaming at in the huddle? Here you go. And that's the same thing. We want to know what Usman Khwaja and David Warner are thinking as they're batting along in the middle of the pitch. And that's access that we've never gotten before. And I like that.
Imagine Babar Azam getting mic'd up in the horror in a PSL match. Do you think there'd be a lot of bleeps needed there?
I don't think Babar swears a lot. I think Shaheen and Haris would be a good competition. There's something going on there anyways.
Yeah.
And mic them both up and let them rip, bro.
I have a question for you. And I think this will be the last one we end the podcast with. When you were live yesterday, lots of questions about should Saim Ayub replace Imam ul Haq in the next Test match? What are your thoughts? Imam has been looking quite defensive. Just scored 150 in the first inning of the first match and struggling ever since. So do you think bringing in a young guy like Saim Ayub against Australia in Sydney in his first Test tour, do you think that's a good replacement?
I think whatever the style of cricket that Shan Masood and Mohammad Hafiz are trying to play for Pakistan cricket, Imam ul Haq does not fit that format.
He's not buying into that idea.
Exactly. So if that's the case, and if there's a guy who's not conforming to whatever new structure that you're implementing, I think he's creating more of a friction than letting things run smoothly. You sit him out. He hasn't really shown up in this Test series. Even the 50 that he made in that first innings there was no confidence in that 50. It was a gritty 50. Don't get me wrong, but the confidence, like I would take Salman Ali Agha's 50 in the fourth innings over Imam's 50 in the first match of the first innings. And so, yeah, I would put Saim in there, but with the caveat of Saim, I would say to Saim, look, this is your debut game. It's SCG. It's a batter-friendly game, wicket for the most part. Play your game out there, whatever that is. We haven't seen his game in Test match cricket as much, but he knows his game in Test match cricket. And if that's attacking, if that's scoring at 70, 80 in a Test match, then go out and do that. And, it doesn't matter if you get out that way, but that's the way I want you to play. And two things could happen. Either it could be a forgettable debut for Saim Ayub and we keep working on him, or it could be a spectacular debut for Saim. And then all our predictions and all our speculations will come true. And he will indeed rise up to the occasion, or we'll wait for him to rise up to the occasion in the next coming months. But to say that if Saim performs, even if he gets a double golden duck, I don't think it gets ever dropped. I don't think people get stopped cheering for Saim or anything like that. This is a really hard series. And I think just letting Saim go in and letting him rip, I think it'll be an interesting battle for sure. Might be fruitful, might do nothing, but it's a gamble that I take over seeing Imam score another 60 ball 20.
Left-handers in the past have loved the SCG. Brian Lara absolutely loved playing at the SCG, even so that he named his first daughter Sydney on the Sydney cricket ground. So I'm hoping if Saim does get a chance, he plays his natural game, shows us the range of shots he has, stroke play, and again, plays in line with the Pakistan way, with the aggressive approach, with what Shan is trying to instill in this Pakistan team.
I just heard the news that if Saim Ayub scores a double century on debut, he will name his daughter Sidra.
Apple Sidra.
There we go. I think this is a good place to end the podcast. Quite a solemn one, a deep dive, a reflection of the Pakistan cricket team, I think. Also, the fact that we were shooting this at 12:30 a.m. doesn't really help.
What's the emoji of the day? Yeah.
Emoji of the day, I think we keep the sad boy hours going, and give me sad faces. Give me tears. Give the depression to me, because I feel it. I think the only reason I feel it so heavily and so sad about this is because 79 runs with the mistakes that we made, it almost seems doable.
How about that sad face where the tears are just in the eyes but not falling?
Yeah.
So it's like, we're sad we didn't win, but we're also happy sad that we got so close.
What a horrible year to be a Pakistan cricket fan.
Terrible year. Could not have been a worse year.
Could not have been a worse year. One to forget for sure. Right up with 2009. 2010, I believe. And 2009, actually. 2009 was the terrorist attacks. 2010 was the spot fixing scandal.
And we lost the World Cup to Australia.
Yes.
Mike got sixes.
Yep. 2009, the start was pretty good, actually. I'm not going to lie. Half of that year was pretty good, and then it just goes down to shit from there. 2013, similar vein of just forgettable year. Don't want to think about it. Don't need to think about it again after a couple more days. So, what more can I say?
The positive is that the next year is going to be filled with more T20s. Pakistan is a better T20 team. There's a World Cup coming up. There's a new captain. There's a new fresh side. And I'm looking forward to what the new year brings.
Yes, Shaba, I would say to that. And everybody who's watching this and listening to this, we wish you all a really happy new year from the Backward Point family. And, bringing glad tidings over to the new year and making sure that Pakistan brings in the silverware and the goldenware in the coming months.
Yep. This is Bashar signing off.
And another Sayed signing off. Take care of yourself if you're listening on the car. Drive safe if you're at home. Have a happy new year.
See ya.